Inside the Magic, show number 371 for May 13th, Mother's Day, 2012. It is Sunday, May 13th, 2012. This is show 371 of Inside the Magic, and as always, I am your host, Ricky Briganti. We've got another great show packed with Disney and theme park news and a whole lot more fun. And before we get to all of that, I invite you to visit our website over at InsideTheMagic.net. There you'll find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, articles, and so much more. And if you ever have any news, tips, questions, comments, anything else you want to share, you can always email me at ricky@InsideTheMagic.net, or you can call, leave a message on our voicemail line at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. And now, let's get on with the show. This week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. Book your Disney cruise vacation with Magical Travel and receive free shipboard credit. Shipboard credits are good towards merchandise, spa treatments, shore excursions, and other activities. So you're going to want to call Magical Travel today at 866-207-8387 or visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote. And when you do that, be sure to mention Inside the Magic to receive a free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And thanks very much to listeners and viewers like you and like Jonathan Gibson this week. Thanks very much for your donation, Jonathan, actually just a few minutes ago, and all of our monthly recurring donation subscribers, as well as anyone clicking through those affiliate links over at InsideTheMagic.net. It all supports the show, and thank you very much for that. And now, let's get started with our trip around the world. So here we are, another show, episode 371, into our 8th year of Inside the Magic. Now we've completed 7 years just a couple of weeks ago. Time flies. It's been just chatting in the live chat room here a minute ago about how it's been since 2005 recording the show weekly, and it's amazing how quickly that time passes. But I, of course, love producing the show, and hope you all enjoy it week after week. That's why I do it. Sort of along the same lines there, I wanted to make a quick mention. I probably don't mention this enough here on the show, except for casually, occasionally at the very end of the show. Between episodes of this podcast, of course, we have the website, but we also have Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube accounts that you can follow or subscribe to or like or whatever, that keep everybody up to date on everything that is happening in the world of Disney and theme parks and beyond throughout every week. We just hit 11,000 likes on Facebook. We're approaching 15,000 followers on Twitter and topped 25,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you are one of those many, I thank you much for following us. If you're not, then head over to just add /Inside the Magic to any of those services to find us there. So now let's jump into this week's news, and surprisingly, well, I guess it's not that surprising, but the biggest news story that came out this week is, it may be surprising as to which one of the many it is. It's the one that got, over 800 clicks of like this story on our website, which is an absurdly high number of clicks. It is a new experience that's coming to Disney's Hollywood studios starting this coming Friday, which is the first day of Star Wars weekends. And throughout all the weekends of Star Wars weekends, Disney will be offering something called Carbon Freeze Me. This is something that's been developed for Disney, in which guests will be able to step into a carbon freezing chamber a la Empire Strikes Back. It's going to be located near the American Idol experience. Now, they're not actually going to carbon freeze you, of course, but they'll do the next best thing, which is scan your face in 3D using multiple cameras, and then in the end, they're going to produce an 8-inch figurine that looks like you have been frozen in carbonite, much like Han Solo was in the Star Wars series. It's also going to come with a light-up wristband that says Carbon Freeze Me on there as well. And it's definitely an experience that I'm looking forward to because I signed up. Of course, how could I not sign up on that? It's how can you really not, or how can you resist being able to head to Star Wars weekends and have yourself carbon frozen? That's just a unique experience. And there's a cost, of course, involved with the carbon freezing experience. It's going to happen at $100 to get that carbon frozen version of yourself. It'll be actually shipped to fans in around 4 weeks, able to be hung on a wall, and you can get additional carbon frozen versions of yourself at $75. No discounts are available, unfortunately, and reservations are required. You have to call 407-WDW-TECH, which is 407-939-8324, in order to make that reservation. Mine is on the very first day of Star Wars weekends. Definitely looking forward to seeing what I will look like when I am frozen in carbonate. So here's some other sort of rumor news, and I'm not even really sure what to make of this quite yet. A website called wdwfanboys.com is reporting that they've seen some plans from a few years ago that may or may not actually happen at some point of a new interactive experience that was in development for Pirates of the Caribbean out here in Orlando at the Magic Kingdom and Adventureland. It's going to be a RFID-based experience, sort of, I guess, similar to the Kim Possible adventure mixed with Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, and somewhere in the middle of all of that, you'd be able to use some kind of RFID-enabled device and touch, let's say, a skull and make a tiki talk, or activate a cannon that will have some special effects, or things like that. Things that are very piratey and interactive, and, well, we don't know if this is actually going to happen. It is just sort of rumor at this point, but there have been some rumblings around Pirates that things are being installed here and there. We'll have to wait and see if this is indeed the latest line in RFID-based interactive experiences going to the Magic Kingdom, or if this is something that that simply got scrapped along the way. We'll keep on top of it and see what happens. Now, we've talked about the exotic driving experience here on the show, which I had a chance to drive in when it first premiered, I think back in January, and then more recently, just I don't know, about a week and a half ago or so, I had a chance to do the riding experience there as well in a Ferrari, which definitely was not nearly as fun as driving the Ferrari around 6 laps around the track. It was just a couple of laps of riding, but it was also fun to have the drivers there sort of put the car through its paces and take you around. But point being here, the exotic driving experience from Richard Petty down here at Walt Disney World is going on tour. If you're interested in taking part in this and you're not going to be coming down here to Orlando anytime, there are 4 locations coming up this summer that you'll have a chance to do that at. The Charlotte Motor Speedway will be June 15th through 17th, which is Father's Day weekend. So, of course, they're touting the fact that you can make this a good Father's Day present. Then you've got the Englishtown Raceway Park, June 22nd, through 24th. MSR Houston, August 17th through 19th, and Texas Motor Speedway, August 23rd through 26th. They're going to be bringing around the Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, and Audi cars to give you the exotic driving experience. Now, in the last couple of weeks, let's jump out of Disney here for a second and talk Universal Orlando, where I have, as I said in the last couple of weeks, mentioned some new experiences that are going into, or have now debuted officially this week at Universal Orlando. In fact, this week, Universal Orlando rolled out the red carpet. They had a gala grand opening event for its 2 newest entertainment offerings, all part of their year to be here, as they are putting it. And those experiences, of course, are 2 that I've quite enjoyed. There's Universal Cinematic Spectacular, which is their new Lagoon show, and then they also officially debuted this week Universal's Superstar Parade, featuring SpongeBob SquarePants and characters from Despicable Me, like Gru and the Minions, and then you've got Hop, which is that Easter Bunny movie that came out a while ago, and Dora the Explorer and Diego as well. And so those experiences are now officially open over at Universal Orlando. The big opening hoopla event did not necessarily go off without a hitch, because it was a rather rainy night, but eventually they did put on both of those shows, and now they're occurring daily over at that park. If you head on over to InsideTheMagic.net, you can catch interviews with the show directors of both of those experiences. Mike Aiello, who's a great guy, often on working on Halloween Horror Nights, but he had a chance for the last year and a half, 2 years, something like that, to work on Universal Cinematic Spectacular, and then Laura Wallace, the show director of Universal's Superstar Parade. So you can learn more about both of those experiences over at InsideTheMagic.net. And along the same lines, over at Universal Orlando, they've revealed most of their summer concert series lineup, which begins on June 9th with the cast of Nickelodeon's TV series Victorious. Then a week later, June 16th, will be Three Doors Down and ZZ Top. We knew about those already. But in addition, beginning on June 23rd, or on June 23rd, rather, will be a performance by Josh Turner. June 30th will be Al Green, and July 7th will be Lupe Fiasco. And then there's one more date still to be determined, July 14th. Somebody will be performing at Universal. Not sure who yet. And sticking with the topic of Universal, here's something very, very popular, of course, has been the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, but surprisingly, we're not talking about Universal Orlando this time, not even Universal Studios Hollywood, where it was recently announced that the Wizarding World will be making its way there in a few years. No, this week, Universal Studios Japan has announced that they are also going to be building a Wizarding World of Harry Potter. That one's going to open in 2014, which is a couple of years sooner than the Hollywood version, actually. It's going to feature many of the same elements as the original out here in Orlando at the Islands of Adventure theme park, including Hogwarts Castle and the Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey ride. And, it's interesting that it's going to open sooner in Japan than it is in California. And that's because in California, they actually have to do some reworking of the area and some demolition, presumably. Whereas in Japan, apparently they just have room, and they're just going to be able to start building almost immediately. I think they're going to start building later this month. So if you're in Japan and you're a Harry Potter fan, good news for you. And back out here to Orlando, here's something I'm really, really excited about, but it's not Universal. Well, it's loosely Universal related, but not specifically, and it's definitely not Disney related. But if you grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, like I did, you'll also be excited about the fact that the Nick Hotel, the Nickelodeon Suites Resort out here in Orlando, is going to soon debut something called Double Dare Live. It's actually officially starting on May 25th, Memorial Day weekend. Now, this isn't something it's going to be televised. It's not bringing back the Double Dare TV show, the game show hosted by Mark Summers from years ago, but it is the next best thing. In fact, it may even be better, because a guest staying at Nick Hotel will be able to enter into Studio Nick and take part in a modernized version of the popular game show using state-of-the-art technology and today's pop culture as part of the trivia. And of course, there will be plenty of sloppy physical challenges. It actually soft opens May 21st, and again, the official debut will be May 25th, and unfortunately, it is going to be open only to those who are staying at the hotel, but that certainly gives you a good reason to stay there at the Nick Hotel. So now let's jump coasts on over to the Disneyland Resort in California, where this week another window ceremony took place on Main Street, USA, and this one is long overdue, in my opinion. Alice Davis, who has designed so many costumes over the years for Disney. Of course, she was an Imagineer, and she was the wife of Mark Davis, a Disney legend as well. They're both Disney legends. Well, Alice Davis got her window on Main Street, USA this week, right next to the window that's been there for a number of years for her late husband, Mark Davis. Alice Davis's window reads, "Small World Costume Company, Alice Davis, Seamstress to the Stars." And of course, that's a reference to the fact that Alice Davis did design the costumes that are in the It's a Small World attraction, along with Pirates of the Caribbean and countless others. Definitely a huge part of the Disney company. Still appears quite regularly at special Disney events, anniversaries of attractions, etc. So great to note that she has finally received that window on Main Street, USA. Now, there's a lot coming up this summer on June 15th. It's probably one of the biggest days in Disneyland history as far as attraction openings and reopenings and refurbishments, finishing, and all of that sort of thing. And yet another item has been added to the list of new experiences. Well, this one's not entirely new, but experiences that will be taking place on or beginning June 15th. And this one is at the Matterhorn, the old Matterhorn bobsleds. Not only is that attraction reopening on the 15th after long refurbishment and repainting and all of that, but this week Disney also announced that the real mountain climbers will be returning to the Matterhorn Mountain at Disneyland beginning June 15th. So if you were a fan of that old show where people would ascend the Matterhorn to reach the top, you'd be excited because it is returning to the park. Now, recently, it may have even been last week here on the show, I mentioned that Club 33 had opened up its wait list for people to sign up to try to get into that exclusive club located in of course, New Orleans Square at Disneyland, as well as the new Club 1901 that will be opening soon, again, June 15th, in the Carthay Circle Theater at California Adventure. Well, this week, Disneyland sent out 100 invitations to join up to those who are on the waiting list. Now, the waiting list apparently is 800 people long, so still a small percentage of those who are on the waiting list, and I'm sure since they just recently opened it up, the waiting list will get even longer. And of course, the cost is not cheap to get into Club 33, or rather to become a member of Club 33 and the new 1901. It's going to be $25,000 for the initiation fee, plus another $10,000 per year. Definitely not cheap, but at least 100 more people are getting their chance to spend that large amount of money and become members of the club. And continuing on with the date of June 15th, there is going to be a grand press event, of course, as Disney likes to do, to celebrate all that has been going on at the Disneyland Resort for the past 5 years or so since they started their upgrade project of Disney California Adventure, as well as working on Disneyland Park and Disneyland Hotel and the whole surrounding area. I received an invitation in the mail this week, save the date notice for the whole big 3-day, actually, press event that's going to be going on June 13th through 15th. I've got the box right here for those of you who are watching the video version, and actually the inside of this invitation came as to what those of you watching see behind me on the wall, or on the shutters behind me, are a series of postcards that are sort of illustrating all the different items, attractions, shows, experiences, everything that has debuted in the last 5 years of the Disneyland Resort, and the list just goes on and on, dating all the way back to the Pixar Play Parade, as well as Toy Story Midway Mania, and as recently as last summer with The Little Mermaid, and the new Star Tours, etc., etc., and of course, Cars Land, Buena Vista Street, Carthay Circle Theater, the Red Trolleys, etc., are all going to be opening up June 15th. And I invite all of you, of course, to follow along when I head out to California in just over a month. Actually, a month from today is when it's going to be beginning, I believe, probably in the evening of June 13th, and then all day on the 14th, and probably the morning of the 15th will be a look at all of everything that I just talked about. Cars Land, Buena Vista Street, etc., etc. Lots to look forward to, so be sure to follow on Twitter and Facebook and on the website and all of that to follow along. And then if you want to see a closer look at this great invitation that Disneyland sent out, head on over to InsideTheMagic.net to take a look at each of those attraction postcards. But along those same lines, Disneyland did open up a few opportunities, or at least give a sneak peek of some of them this week. First up, the Carthay Circle restaurant, which everybody's been really looking forward to. It's going to be inside the Carthay Circle Theater on Buena Vista Street. Reservations are now open for this restaurant at Disney California Adventure. It officially opens June 15th, but you can make your reservation now. And the setting of this Carthay Circle restaurant is basically the experience of going to the after party after the premiere, the world premiere of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs decades and decades ago. Of course, that's the significance of the Carthay Circle Theater in Disney history. That is the real Hollywood theater where Walt Disney and the Disney Company made or premiered Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs years ago, and that's sort of the era and the time and the place that guests will be transported to in visiting this restaurant, as if you were there and partying afterwards with Walt Disney and his friends and family. The best way to get reservations that I found this week is not to call the reservation line, which you certainly can, which is 714-781-DINE, but rather Disneyland recently introduced an email ability to sign up for dining reservations, and that's what I did to book my dinner at the Carthay Circle restaurant. I fired off an email to dine@disneyland.com. You include your name, your phone number, how many in your party, and the time and date that you want, and they'll email you back very, very quickly. It only took 10 minutes for them to email me back with a confirmation number and say, okay, here's your time, it's booked. Simple as that. As far as the restaurant itself, it's going to feature multiple levels. The first floor foyer of the Carthay Circle Theater is going to have the story of the relationship between that theater and the Walt Disney Company, including photos and artifacts from the 1937 premiere of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's going to be lots of items from the Walt Disney Archives featured in there, and those are going to rotate out over long periods of time. It's not always going to be the same things in there. Then when you move upstairs to the dining room, that's where you'll find a 200-seat indoor dining room, as well as a terrace that seats 56, total of 256 seats, and a menu developed by executive chef Andrew Sutton, who's also the executive chef at nearby Napa Rose over at Grand California. And if you're familiar with the Napa Rose, you know that this Carthay Circle restaurant is going to be fantastic, but it's also not going to be terribly inexpensive. Entrees are going to range anywhere from $20 to $40, it seems like, with appetizers and desserts around the $10 to $15 range. Probably not going to get out of there under $50 a head, and but it sounds like it's going to be worth it. The menu is seeming pretty spectacular, with just some of the items that they have listed that they're going to be serving there. Includes 5 varieties of sustainable fish, an udon noodle bowl, Angus burger, some old-fashioned dishes such as liver and onions with a modern twist, and many, many more. That doesn't even scratch the surface of what they're going to be serving as sort of this California, well, actually they describe it as Southern California cuisine, breezy, light, and fresh. And there will also be seasonal desserts featured there, including some sort of what they describe as a Monte Cristo banana split or something like that. It just sounds incredibly delicious. There's also going to be some lunch servings there as well, and downstairs, and it will be a Carthay Circle lounge. If you don't necessarily want to go to the full-on Carthay Circle restaurant, you'll be able to go to sort of the more casual experience, a quick meal, shared plates, maybe grab a glass of wine, some craft beer that they'll be serving there, or even some handcrafted seltzer soda, which is interesting. There's also going to be an elaborate wine program there where everybody is trained to talk and tell you all about their wines. In addition, Carthay Circle Restaurant is going to offer some World of Color viewing packages where you can dine there and then get a front and center view of World of Color. In order to do that, all you have to do is order an appetizer and an entree, or an entree and a dessert. And if you do either of those combinations, you will get admission to the front and center excellent viewing area for World of Color at no extra charge. So that is the Carthay Circle restaurant coming June 15th, but that is definitely not the only food that Disney revealed this week. They also revealed the menus that are coming to Cars Land as part of the Cozy Cone Motel, Flo's V8 Cafe, and Fillmore's Taste Inn, and these sound absolutely delicious as well. Beginning with Flo's V8 Cafe, it's actually going to have a 300-seat dining room, so a pretty significant size restaurant there right in Cars Land, of course, themed to an old-style diner, but in the Cars universe. They're going to serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner with a wide variety of food available there. And just some of the food that they're going to be offering includes a rotisserie items, a New York strip loin, citrus marinated turkey breast, a pork loin flavored with Coca-Cola barbecue sauce, which is really interesting. Breakfast will have a brioche French toast with salted caramel and bananas, and chicken tamales and scrambled eggs. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a diner, or rather, no diner would be anywhere near complete without serving pie, which is they're going to have a whole bunch of single-serving varieties, including strawberry rhubarb, apple cheddar, chocolate mud, cherry, and blueberry peach, and among many others. They're also going to be serving craft beers from Bear Republic Brewing Company in California, as well as California wines on the menu. Then moving over to the Cozy Cone Motel, which is going to feature, straight out of Cars, it's going to feature these little sort of wigwam-style individual cones that you'll be able to visit and get different cuisine at each. And Disney has revealed the menu for each of those cones. And cone number 1 is going to feature churro bites with cinnamon chocolate sauce, cinnamon spiced hot cocoa, and Ramon's Pear of Dice soda made with dessert pear syrup, mojito syrup, and Sprite. Over at cone number 2, you're going to be able to get soft serve ice cream and root beer floats. And I emphasize root because they're spelling it R-O-U-T-E to fit in with the Route 66 theme. Cone number 3 is going to have savory bites, and these are the ones we've been hearing about forever for the Cozy Cone, all in edible bread cones, and it'll have bacon scrambled egg cone for breakfast, a chicken verde, or chili cone queso, and all the other cone puns there for lunch and dinner. Over at cone number 4, there will be pretzel bites with cheesy sauce and Red's Apple Freeze, which is a fat-free frozen concoction with apple juice, toasted marshmallow syrup, and passion fruit mango foam. And in cone number 5, they will have flavored popcorn with 2 different flavors daily, such as dill pickle caramel or sweet and spicy. Sounds absolutely delicious to me. I'm going to have fun just hopping from cone to cone out there in Cars Land and seeing, or rather tasting, all of the interesting different bits of yumminess, I guess you could say. That's probably the best way to put it, that they'll be featuring there. Of course, there's going to be even more to eat. They wouldn't want to stop there. No, they'll also going to have, actually this is more like drinks, over at Fillmore's Taste In, they're going to have whole and cut fruits. They're going to have bottled water and various juices and soft drinks, and a good place to refresh yourself with all of that. So Cars Land is just going to be absolutely packed with yumminess through and through. Again, Cars Land, like much else at Disneyland Resort, is going to be opening June 15th officially. So, moving away from that, here's something kind of fun that's been out there for a while in various forms, that Disney had basically licensed their patent to the really unique fake flame technology that they've been using in the Haunted Mansion for quite a while. They licensed it to a candle making company, and they've come out with a bunch of different products. And this week, listener Reed wrote to me and sent me a picture, actually, of the latest in the line of those products. It's available for $40 for a couple of LED candles at BJ's, and it features these very realistic flames that are Imagineering patented technology licensed to this candle company. So if you want those same very realistic fake candles that you see in the Haunted Mansion, this is one of the ways to get that, and they are quite the technology. I haven't picked them up yet, but it's a little pricey, for $20 a candle, but of course it's perfectly safe. It's not a real flame, and you get a bit of Imagineering in your own house. All right, let's turn to the world of television now, where, surprisingly, something very exciting happened late last night. Of course, I've mentioned recently that Tron Uprising is on the horizon. It was supposed to come out with a 30-minute prelude episode on Disney Channel a few days from now on Friday, May 18th. Well, Disney XD, which is the network that Tron Uprising, the series, will be airing on, has already put that 30-minute episode online on their YouTube channel. This prelude episode is called Beck's Beginning, and the whole series of Tron Uprising is going to be set in between the two Tron films, the original Tron and the newer Tron Legacy. And this 30-minute episode, of course, as soon as I found out that it was up online on the Disney XD YouTube channel, I watched it last night, full 720p HD, and I loved it. It is an excellent, excellent journey into the world of Tron. Lots of returning characters, lots of new characters, great visuals, great Daft Punk style music. It isn't actually the Daft Punk music that you remember from Tron Legacy, but very, very similar in style. A very similar visual style to Tron Legacy as well, but in this television animated format. And it does seem like this is going to be a fantastic show for anybody like me who is a big Tron fan. I definitely encourage you to head to youtube.com/DisneyXD. I think it's only available in the United States, unfortunately, at the moment. But if you have access to it, go watch this 30-minute episode. And then, of course, the full Tron Uprising series does not debut for another almost a month. June 7th, I believe, is the date it'll start on Disney XD. But in the meantime, you can at least enjoy this 30-minute installment that I very much did last night. Of course, not everything is quite as good in the world of Disney television. ABC this week announced they are canceling 3 of their shows, missing The River and Pan Am. And of course, Pan Am was highly publicized, highly advertised and promoted, and, well, now it's gone. And, well, it flew away, just like the really, gone Pan Am company. But much, much better news that continues to be incredible at the box office is Marvel's The Avengers. It has broken $100 million in its second weekend. That's the first time in movie history that's ever happened. Another record being smashed by The Avengers. In addition, as of today, it has crossed the $1 billion mark in just 2 weeks of being out there. It has actually reached number 11 on the all-time worldwide money-making list. It has surpassed The Dark Knight, closing in very closely on Alice in Wonderland and even Star Wars Episode 1 for their entire runs. And remember, this is The Avengers only the second week. This movie is absolutely killing the box office, and it seems like not much is going to stop it anytime soon. And just this week, the second quarter earnings report came out for the Walt Disney Company, and of course, Bob Iger, CEO and president of the Walt Disney Company, was talking up the Avengers as much as he could, and he also announced officially that there will indeed be an Avengers sequel on the horizon. Of course, they're already planning a third Iron Man movie, a second Thor movie, and a second Captain America movie as well. And they're also, of course, Iger was asked, and he said yes, they are working on some sort of Avengers to be in the theme parks. That's it. That's all he could say at the moment. Of course, it's not going to happen out here in Orlando because of the licensing agreement with Universal Orlando. They have the Marvel characters at Islands of Adventure as they have for many years now, but it's possible for Disneyland California. It's even more possible for the theme parks overseas, so we'll just have to continue to wait and see exactly when, where, and how the Avengers and the other Marvel characters make their way into theme parks, Disney theme parks at some point. But as far as the earnings go, Disney's second quarter increased 29% to 63 cents a share from 49 cents in the prior year quarter. So a good year-over-year report from Disney, despite the relative, actually pretty big failure of John Carter at the box office. Disney still did well for the quarter as a whole. However, the film studio had reported an operating loss of $84 million for the quarter because of John Carter. And just on the heels of all of that, Bob Iger decided to sell $81.6 million worth of his own stock. That's 1.8 million shares of Disney at an average price of $45.36. He, of course, has previously announced that he's going to step down as Disney CEO in just a few years, March of 2015. He still owns 1.14 million Disney shares. And let's move away from financial results to some a really bizarre sight that happened this week on Los Angeles highways from D23 and Disneyland. They were bringing a very large Disneyland artifact to the Treasures of the Walt Disney Archives exhibit that is being developed for the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum in Simi Valley, opening July 6th. The giant, maleficent dragon head, formerly used as part of Disneyland's Phantasmic show, was being trucked in the open air down Los Angeles freeways this week. It certainly would have been a crazy sight for anybody driving down the highways early in the morning around the Los Angeles area, and you look to your right and all of a sudden there's a giant black and purple dragon head staring at you with big yellow eyes and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, you're going to be able to see that very much up close and in person once that new exhibit opens at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in a little bit less than a month from now, and it'll remain there through April of 2013 when the exhibit closes. That's not the only artifact that Disney let out of the bag, if you will, that's going to be in the exhibit. On the latest installment of D23's Disney Geek web series, they also said that Johnny Depp's Mad Hatter hat from Alice in Wonderland will be there. Johnny Depp's recognizable compass as Captain Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean series will be there. Julie Andrews' Mary Poppins hat and scarf will be there. An animatronic bear from the Country Bears attraction at Disneyland will be there. And then this was kind of odd, also on the Disney Geek, the Colonel, the very famous and recognizable Colonel from the old Adventurers Club out here, Pleasure Island at Walt Disney World, made a special appearance there on the Disney Geek episode, but he will not be part of the exhibit. They just decided to bring him out just for a bit of fun during the episode. If you want to watch that, head over to InsideTheMagic.net. And one more bit of, two more bits of news this week. There's a new art exhibit coming up in the from Thank You Walt Disney Incorporated in the Buttonwood Art Space. The art show is called Animation and Imagination, featuring art of graphite, colored pencil, pen and ink, and other media, images inspired by Walt Disney and his legacy. It'll be running June 1st through July 27th this coming summer in the Buttonwood Art Space in Kansas City, Missouri. Artists being featured in this exhibit include Tony Anselmo, who's the official voice of Donald Duck for Disney, Brett Iwan, who's the official voice of Mickey Mouse, and artists from studios who have worked at studios like Disney, Lucasfilm, and Marvel. You can go to thankyouwaltdisney.org to find out more about this upcoming art exhibition inspired by Disney. And just backtracking a little bit to television news, of course, this week on ABC was the episode of Modern Family, very popular comedy sitcom where the whole family went to Disneyland for a day. And if you missed it on ABC, you can still catch it for a few more days over on ABC's website. And one last bit of, this isn't really news, but something I actually want to just sort of mention here as on a personal note. Over on Twitter, been having some artistic fun with a couple of Imagineers who decided to come up with something they're calling the Twitter Concept Challenge. Now, this is not, I'll emphasize this is not something officially sanctioned or anything related to Disney. This is completely unofficial, but Imagineers Andy Sinclair Harris, who's a concept designer for Imagineering out in Hong Kong, as well as Don Carson, who you may remember from, I don't know, I interviewed him quite a number of months ago here on the show, and he worked on Toontown and Splash Mountain, etc., done a lot of Disney work over the years. Anyway, the two of them have sort of paired up to create this unofficial sort of fun experience or challenge, as they're putting it on Twitter, where they throw out an idea and want people to essentially come up with their own concepts, Imagineering style or Disney style or theme park style, about what they would do surrounding the topic. The first one that they came up with was the idea of a cereal bar, which is sort of that restaurant concept where you go through and pick your cereal and pick toppings, etc., and put it all together. But how would that be done Disney style or Imagineering style? Just sort of a fun thing to play around with. Again, I'll emphasize this is unofficial, has nothing to do with Disney, but just a sort of on-the-side way to express your own creativity. If you want to take part, just follow us on Twitter. Of course, I'm Inside the Magic, and look up those Imagineers on Twitter as well, and just sort of a little opportunity for any of you artists out there to showcase your own talents in a fun and, again, unofficial way. And that's it for your news from around the world this week. And this week's tip comes in from Tony from Illinois, who writes, "My tip is, while at Disney's Hollywood Studios, don't just rush down Hollywood and Sunset Boulevard. Instead, take the time to stop and see the Streetmosphere performers. They always put on wonderful impromptu skits involving the guests. I myself was involved in one with Officer Les Manley as he tried to give out a parking ticket for stopping my ECV in a no parking area. The Streetmosphere characters never fail to put a smile on my face, as well as give me a few news stories to tell when I get home." Tony, definitely a great tip there. You're absolutely right. And I think the Streetmosphere hours were actually recently extended, so you have more opportunities than ever to see them at Hollywood Studios. And it's a great timely tip because in just a month or so, actually a month and a couple of days, more Streetmosphere performers will be in existence, but they'll be out in California, all along Buena Vista Street, very much in the style of those at Hollywood Studios, but in the era and the time and the place for Buena Vista Street, the early 20s, or rather late 20s, early 30s, and it should be just as fun out there as well. It's not always about just running to the attractions and the shows. Maybe sometimes you just want to sit on the street and enjoy those Streetmosphere characters as well. Everyone else out there, email your tips into tips@insidethemagic.net. And before we get to the first main feature on this week's show, I want to put in a quick word about Theme Park Connection. If you have Disney items or collectibles in your house and you want to add to that collection, Theme Park Connection is the best place to do it. In fact, if you just want to start a collection of Disney items, or you just want to browse through rare signs and costumes and props and things that you will instantly recognize from theme parks, Walt Disney World, Disneyland, overseas, even some items from non-Disney parks as well, Theme Parks Connections eBay store online, as well as their physical store out here in Winter Garden, just outside Orlando, just about 15 minutes north of the Magic Kingdom or so. Great place to do it. ThemeParkConnection.com is where you're going to find out all the information, of course, links to their online store and all the items they're selling there, as well as directions and store hours for their physical store as well, which is a big warehouse, just shelves and shelves of countless items from decades of Disney history. Pretty impressive. They're getting new stuff in all the time, so you're going to want to check back quite regularly. So once again, find it all over at ThemeParkConnection.com. So we opened the show this week with a bit of Scottish music, and that's because Merida, Disney's newest princess, has made her way into the theme parks. And yeah, maybe this isn't actually Scottish music. Maybe it's sort of Scottish. I guess it's from off kilter Scottish, right? So it's got bagpipes, must be Scottish. Anyway, Merida is from Brave, Disney and Pixar's upcoming film that is starting at theaters, making its way into theaters next month in June. However, this fiery red-haired new character is now in the parks, and she this weekend made her way over to the Magic Kingdom. I know previously I mentioned here on the show and even shared a bit of her appearance over at Epcot. That was a test experience, if you will, but now she has made her way to her official meet and greet home, which officially debuts a few days from now on Friday, May 18th. However, yesterday I had a chance to hop on over to the Magic Kingdom and see Merida in person. She, of course, is all the way from Scotland, and she's there with her 3 bear cub buddies hanging out in the fairy tale garden just to the right of Cinderella Castle. Formerly Rapunzel was there, and Rapunzel's been sort of evicted to the area next to Town Hall because Merida is going to be the next big thing in the park. And overheard in the area, of course, there is plenty of bagpipe music and Scottish music, and once you enter into this new meet and greet, you have a choice, an opportunity to choose between going up and seeing Merida and her 3 young bear cub friends immediately, or you can also do a little bit of coloring and even an archery lesson. And so what I want to do now actually is play a little bit of that experience heading on into the Magic Kingdom, and what it's like to walk through the whole fairy tale garden area now that Merida has been in place there. And then I'll come back to tell you a little bit more about my personal experience inside this new Magic Kingdom meet and greet. So the bears that are behind Merida in this experience, not only do you... well, here she is.
What's your name?
My name's Merida. Very pleased to meet you.
And you're from Scotland, it sounds like.
I'm from the Highlands of Scotland, that's correct.
Very nice. Who are these guys?
These are my 3 wee little bear cub friends. They follow me all the way from Scotland. They love causing mischief sometimes. They even sneak into the kitchen, and they eat all the pastries. Oh, is that funny now, is it? They think they're so clever.
Apparently they think they are. Do you enjoy...
Come into a photo with
Yeah,
me?
we can do a photo.
Anyway, as I started to say, that was a bit of what Merida sounds like. Not everybody's thrilled with her Scottish accent, thinking it sounds a bit more Irish or some other, dialect. But it sounds Scottish to me as an uneducated American in the ways of European accents. But regardless, I found that while Merida, it's great to meet and greet with her in this experience. And of course, it's great to get your picture taken with the newest Disney princess. The 3 little baby bear cubs that are behind her in this meet and greet experience are really the highlight of the whole thing, because they are moving and blinking their eyes and moving their mouths and posing for the pictures and moving their heads back and forth, and a really unexpectedly great addition to what would otherwise be a fairly ordinary meet and greet experience. And of course, Disney's calling this a play and greet experience as well, because there's an archery component where you can wait in line and shoot an actual bow and arrow, a soft-tipped arrow, of course. But you can, you tell them if you're right-handed or left-handed. The kilt-wearing cast member will set up the bow and arrow for you. You pick it up, you grab a hold, you aim at the big bullseye in front of you, maybe 6 or 7 feet away, and fire away. And almost every time you hit the bullseye, even kids as young as 4 or 5 years old, I saw them having no problem hitting the bullseye whatsoever. It's and unique experience, certainly. Definitely a great play and greet for those who are sure to soon be fans of Disney Pixar's Brave when it hits theaters next month. A lot to be enjoyed. Here again, it is in the Fairy Tale Garden, just to the right of Cinderella Castle, formerly occupied by Rapunzel, but now Merida has taken over. And in the whole area, actually, they have decorated it nicely to really re-theme this garden as to really emphasize the brave aspect of it. You can see sort of the Scottish-style artwork, tapestries, etc., showing off the whole family. Merida and her parents and her brothers and even her horse are there. And also, in addition to the archery lesson that you can have in this play and greet experience, there's a coloring component where you can grab a picture of Merida on her horse and color that. And, of course, outside the whole thing, there's plenty of Brave merchandise, from a Merida costume to plush versions of the baby bear cubs to an actual bow and arrow that you can get, which I really wonder how that's going to work out in the parks when kids start tearing into this bow and arrow set. And even though they're soft tip arrows, they are still projectiles, and I wonder how that's going to work out in the park when there's arrows flying everywhere, especially after the movie comes out. I guess we'll have to wait and see how Disney takes control of that. But it is fun, and it is perfectly safe while in the meet and greet environment, very well watched over by cast members, and a whole lot of fun for everybody. I actually had a good time when I attended the soft opening yesterday. Merida was very nice to meet. As I've said, it's always great to meet a new character, but I think the archery and the bears and all of that really add a lot to the experience. So head out to the Magic Kingdom. It doesn't officially open till May 18th, but it's likely going to be open on and off for the next few days as they prepare for the lead up. And then, of course, Brave hits theaters next month in June. Now, as I briefly mentioned at the top of the show, today is not only Sunday, but it's a special Sunday. It is indeed Mother's Day. And, of course, happy Mother's Day to any of you moms out there. And just for Mother's Day, I have a very unique song that I want to share from the Dapper Dans.
Fathers, no one seems to realize that fathers are the most neglected guys, so do everything you can. You owe a lot to your old man. You should always love your papa, treat him right and treat him proper, for without your father you would be nowhere. If he hadn't met your mother, would your brother be your brother? You should thank your lucky stars that Pop was there. If it wasn't for your father, would your mother be your mother? So remember that on Mother's Day. If you look just like your father, and you think that that's a bother, for he is not handsome and he is not tall. If your face makes you unhappy, do not blame it on your pappy, for without him you would have no face at all. If it wasn't for your father, would your mother be your mother? So remember that on Mother's Day. If your pa lived in Dakota and your ma in Minnesota, and they both were wed but not to one another, well then it's possible that, mister, you could even be your sister, and the guy you think you are could be your brother. If it wasn't for your father, would your mother be your mother? So remember that on Mother's Day. If he'd been a little stronger and held out a little longer, then today he still would be a single guy. Then it's safe to be assuming that you would not be a human. You would only be a gleam in mother's eye. So be grateful to your pappy, make him happy. Once again I'd like to say, if it wasn't for your father, would your mother be your mother? So remember that on Mother's Day, and don't forget it. Remember that on Mother's Day, I won't regret it. Remember that on Mother's Day, Mother's Day.
So there you go, a little bit of unique Mother's Day music from the Dapper Dans called Remember Dad on Mother's Day, because they make a good point there, you know. Sure, Mother's Day is for mothers, but without the dads, she wouldn't be a mother. So there you go. Anyway, let's move on. Now, I've got another sort of feature here to talk about for a minute. Something we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, the RFID Fastpass Plus testing, Fastpass of the future of sorts, that's been going on over at the Magic Kingdom. And I've sort of loosely talked about it, no personal experience there. However, now I have a first-hand report from a pair of listeners who this week were on vacation out here at Walt Disney World and had a chance to experience this new version of Fastpass for themselves. Katie and Brian, who I met just a couple of nights ago. We had dinner over at Epcot, told me all about it. In fact, Katie actually wrote to me with a great long report detailing exactly how the whole process went, and then they handed me one of these for those of you watching on the video version of the show. It is one of the RFID Fastpass cards that have been used in this test that's been going on over the Magic Kingdom. For those of you who are not quite up to date on the whole thing, basically this is part of Disney's NextGen experience that they're working on, where they're using radio frequency identification, RFID, to have, in this case, they're going to use it for many, this technology for many experiences in the parks. But right now, during this ongoing test, which wraps up just a couple of days from now, it's been going on for about a week and a half now, they're pre-scheduling FastPass times, essentially, and allowing you to just tap this plastic card up to the little scanner in the parks, and it'll register if you're there at the right time that you've already pre-scheduled, and you just move on. So with that said, and again, this is just a test, so you're not everybody gets to do this. However, here is the report from Katie and Brian. Katie writes, my husband and I were selected at Orlando International Airport on our way to board Magical Express to test out the new FastPass technology at Magic Kingdom. We were walking to the Magical Express in the airport when a cast member wearing a FastPass shirt stopped us and asked if we were planning on going to the Magic Kingdom during our visit and if we were familiar with the FastPass system. My husband agreed to take part in the trial run of the new RFID FastPass system before the cast member could even explain. We had heard your report on a previous Inside the Magic episode, so we had a pretty good idea of what we were getting into. The recruiting cast member walked us over to the side of the concourse to another cast member with an iPad to set up our cards and take our information. We were handed a card and told to pick 2 attractions from each side. What I found most interesting about the attractions listed was that they were not all rides. Some were character meet and greets. If we had small children who loved meeting the characters, we would have chosen those for sure. Instead, we chose Jungle Cruise, Haunted Mansion, Peter Pan, and Splash Mountain. Our plan was to hit the park as soon as possible after arriving that afternoon around 3:30 or so, so having these 4 attractions already set up with Fast Passes was a bonus. We were told that we would get an email confirming our selections, like regular Fast Passes, we would have an hour-long window in which to use them starting at 3:50 p.m. Perfect timing. We never actually got that email, which was a bother. Our email addresses are unique, so we thought maybe the cast member had spelled it wrong. We stopped at City Hall in the Magic Kingdom to talk to someone as instructed on the back of the card, but they couldn't find the reservations, even when trying out different spellings for our email. Our best guess is that there was one more screen for the cast member at the airport to submit our information, and maybe she skipped that part. We were directed to stop by any of the RFID FastPass stations to have the cast members with the right technology at their disposal look into the problem. So we went straight to the Jungle Cruise, where we scanned the cards, and that brought up a screen saying something like "No reservations found." The helpful cast members there were able to give us new cards with new reservations, but that pushed all our scheduled times back an hour from or more from our original plans. Haunted Mansion was first at 4:15, so we made our way there. There was a 25-minute wait for the attraction, but with our Fast Passes, a unique experience for the Haunted Mansion, we were able to walk right into the older part of the queue, no graveyard for us, and waited only a few minutes for the stretching room. We were impressed. Peter Pan was a similar experience. Scan the card, wait for approval from the cast member, walk through the Fast Pass line, scan the cards again at the end of the line, and then hop on the ride. It's a simple enough system and close enough to the existing Fast Passes that it shouldn't take too long for people to acclimate to it. Unfortunately, there was enough of a threat of thunderstorms that Jungle Cruise and Splash Mountain closed temporarily. We were exhausted from traveling and opted not to use our last 2 Fast Passes so we could go to the hotel and crash. Our thoughts? It was nice to have a lineup of attractions you know you'll be guaranteed to see, especially when facing minimal time in the park. It was fairly anxiety-producing for me to have to follow such a strict time schedule of when and where I had to be in the park. Perhaps if I had picked the times myself, instead of having a cast member assign them to me, we could have avoided this issue altogether. We had some difficulty picking 4 different attractions from their short list and would have enjoyed being able to pick the same attraction more than once. For example, riding Splash Mountain and Haunted Mansion once in the morning and once in the afternoon on the same day. Again, this may be possible in the future or even now, but our last-minute reservations really blocked us in. We learned from the cast members of Jungle Cruise that the assigned cast members located in the parks can only make reservations for the same day, unlike those we encountered at the airport. Overall, we think the RFID Fast Passes have potential, but there are definitely a lot of bugs to work out with the technology they are using and the training the cast members have. Also, making ride reservations in advance may not work for everyone. There's only so much planning I want to do for a trip. The rest of the time we like to be spontaneous, and having 4 Fast Passes starting an hour or less apart limited that. Definitely a big thank you to Katie and Brian for sharing your experiences with the new FastPass system. Certainly a lot of that can and likely will change when Disney eventually does roll this out on a massive scale for everybody to take part in the Magic Kingdom. Clearly they had some issues. Their reservation didn't go through properly, so then they show up at the park and they had nothing and had to start from scratch. In addition, just something as simple as the threat of thunderstorms caused 2 of their 4 times to not be usable because those attractions were closed. Well, what do you do at that point? I guess you give up and you go home, or you go back to the hotel or wherever it is that you're going to go to avoid the rain, and then you're not able to use that anymore, even though you had already scheduled it in advance. And things like that are bound to happen all the time. Of course, that happens with existing FastPass system as well, particularly now that they are enforcing the 1-hour window. There's sort of that judgment call to be made by cast members as to when they will not let people in after the fact. And that's something for Disney to figure out when those situations happen, when it is most appropriate to make it work. I'm sure that's part of it. But in the end, I think the only thing that they're really testing here is the use of this system right here, the cards, to be able to take something that's different than putting your ticket in a machine, getting a piece of paper, putting that, trying not to lose that, coming back later, handing over that piece of paper. They're really trying to simplify that process by simply putting it on a card with an RFID chip built into it that can store all that information right on there, so that when you return, all you have to do is bink, hit this card against a little device, it registers, it turns green, you're good to go. No more complication to be found in there. And then when you're thinking about integrating that with all of the other RFID technologies that they're planning on integrating into the parks, whether it's the existing usage of RFID in Sorcerer's The Magic Kingdom, or also being able to integrate it into attractions, as has been rumored, the thing that I talked about earlier with Pirates, or there have been rumors of It's a Small World featuring some sort of RFID technology tracking you through the ride, and you have maybe designed a special Small World doll in advance, and then when you ride through, it'll be shown on a screen somewhere as you pass by because it's detected it on your RFID, whether it's a wristband or a ticket in your pocket or whatever it is. In addition, Test Track over at Epcot, when that returns later this year, that's going to feature some sort of RFID technology where you get a card, you design your car in the queue, it is stored on that car, and then on the card rather, and then as you're traveling through the attraction, that gets scanned, and whatever you designed is somehow integrated into the full experience. Ideally, Disney would want to unite all of this onto one card or wristband or whatever it is, so that you're not carrying a stack of things with you all the time. You just have one RFID equipped device rather. Technology disappears and it just becomes this magical experience where things are stored, PhotoPass, FastPass, everything, all on this one place. Even your possibly hotel admission, your key card there, or even your theme park admission could all be in the same place, and it keeps it very simple for everybody to have that extra magic added to the parks. And this is why Disney does these tests. Clearly, Katie and Brian had some issues with their version of the test, and Disney will certainly take that into consideration along with all the other data that they're acquiring during this 2 weeks of testing, put it all together and figure out what the next phase of this project is. It is called NextGen for a reason. It's the next generation of theme park experience, and Disney's not just going to roll that out overnight. There are many phases to this to be tested before Disney decides it is time to roll it out completely. So that is it for now on this subject, but definitely not it forever. I'm sure we'll be talking about this for many weeks and months to come. Thanks again, Katie and Brian. And now, before we jump into this week's listener feedback, let me put in a quick word about Lanyard Lab. If you've got a business you want to promote, maybe you're attending a conference, a convention, or you're just going to a school or a church where you need to wear name tags or ID cards around your neck, great way to do it is customizing a lanyard. Put your own logo on there, your own text, your own colors, whatever it is. Head over to lanyardlab.com and we can do it for you. Simply click on wherever it says get a quote and submit all your information to us. You can send us all your design details, and then we'll email you back with a price quote for your design along with a proof showing you what the lanyards will look like. And it is completely free to try. There's no obligation to purchase whatsoever. So check it out over at lanyardlab.com.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky. Ricky, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Inside the Magic Listener Feedback.
So last week, when I said that's it for listener feedback, I suddenly realized that I had about 3 more emails that I just didn't read for some reason. They were out of my view. So I'm going to go with those this time, as well as a few more that came in this week, and let's jump right into it. First up, an email from Matthew, who writes, just got home from seeing the Avengers, and it leaves me to wonder what your thoughts are about Marvel and Disney beginning to cooperate more on movie production, on the movie production side of this partnership. It seems to me that Disney might benefit more strongly if they had control over the production of the movies. Matthew, definitely a very interesting point there. Of course, if you go see Marvel's The Avengers in the theater, you don't actually see any hint whatsoever of it being anything to do with Disney at all until the very, very end of the credits when it says distributed by Walt Disney Pictures or whatever it does say. Instead, you see that it's a Marvel Studios production in association with Paramount Pictures. And I think there's many good reasons for this. One, there's a lot of comic book fans out there that want nothing to do with Disney. They love Marvel. They love what Marvel has been doing. They loved all the movies up until now, and they would be likely that they're concerned that Disney would ruin it, not even realizing that Disney does own Marvel. And it's very much in the same sort of realm as when Disney purchased Pixar. Everybody was worried that Disney was going to Disney-fy Pixar. Obviously, they had a close relationship already, but Pixar has essentially run themselves ever since then. And just in the same way, Marvel is still Marvel. They're going to run themselves as Marvel. And I see no reason for Disney to extend any sort of creative control over what Marvel is doing, especially since they have now created The Avengers, one of the most successful movies of all time, and it's on its way to becoming the most successful movie. Perhaps, if it continues at the rate it's going, it may even be bigger than Avatar. We'll see. It's already reached $1 billion in just 2 weeks. So definitely becoming an incredibly huge franchise that Disney's purchase of Marvel is absolutely paying off, and there's no reason for Disney to sort of extend their hands into that creative process as far as I can see. Next up, a rather long email that I'm going to share here because it's got a lot of good items in here about a number of topics we've talked about over the last few weeks. It comes in from Dana in New Jersey, who starts by saying, I apologize for the length of this email, but please bear with me. So let's jump into it. First up, I'll just read the whole thing. Dana writes, I have a question. Why do people keep comparing Universal's new water show with World of Color? The technology of water projection has been around for some time. Fantasmic, Six Flags had a show a while back, any show in Las Vegas, etc. Disney didn't invent the technology, and they're not the only ones to use it. World of Color and Universal's show are completely separate entities with separate themes, plus Disney World doesn't even have World of Color. I know the overall technology is the same, but it's not even the same, or it's not even on the same coast. If they decide to put in that in Universal Studios Hollywood Park, then I could see why fans would be upset. Next, Dana continues, recently a listener asked about cheap or free things to do at Disney World to make their honeymoon special. As a poor college student who loves Disney, on my last vacation I had time to explore other options on the resort without breaking the bank. To start, if you're staying outside of one of the monorail resorts, don't be shy to go exploring. Usually resort keys are checked at the pool, but they're not usually checked at the beach. Go for a nice walk on the beach at the Polynesian Resort or relax on one of the hammocks. These beaches are also great for viewing Wishes, the fireworks show at Magic Kingdom. Another great thing about the beaches is that they usually, weather permitting, have a movie and campfire night. A Disney movie is projected onto a big screen where you can roast marshmallows, make s'mores, and it's absolutely free. I know for a fact that they do this at Polynesian and Yacht and Beach Club, but I'm not sure about anywhere else. Ask a cast member. Disney also has a boardwalk that is free to guests. Located at Yacht and Beach Club, just tell the guard you want to visit the boardwalk and they'll let you in. At night, they have dancing and a dueling piano bar, as well as a variety of shops and restaurants. I don't believe these facilities have a cover charge, but I'm not sure. Also, World Showcase entrance to Epcot is just steps away. As for dining, if you're not on the Disney dining plan, quick service meals are usually the way to go. One suggestion I have is to order a kids meal. They're usually cheaper than regular meals, plus drink, snack, and dessert is usually included. Obviously, it's smaller than a normally portioned meal, but the surplus of food definitely helps. Never order a bottle of water. If you ask for cups of water, they're absolutely free. And bring instant iced tea mix. That way you can make your own iced tea without paying a cent. Try to eat at least one table service restaurant. I know they can be expensive, but the cost and food quality are amazing. And stick around for the end of the day at the Magic Kingdom. The very end of the day, they play a special 2-minute show at the castle called The Goodnight Kiss, and it's beautiful and magical. Dana, thanks very much for all of those topics. I'll respond ever so briefly to each one. As far as the comparison between World of Color and Universal Cinematic Spectacular, I think it all derived from the initial piece of concept art that Universal put out for the new show that very much mirrored what World of Color is. It had a rainbow of dancing fountains across a lagoon, and that is the same sort of way that Disney has been promoting World of Color for so many years now, and because of that, it instantly drew that comparison between the two. If they had built it in a different way, really focusing on the movie element of the new show at Universal, as it really should be, then those comparisons wouldn't have been as strong. The fireworks and the fountains, etc., really support what is seen on the screen in the new show, and I love this new Universal show, but you're right, it is not World of Color. It is a completely different style of show. This is a film fans show. It's 100 years of excellent Universal movies carefully put together through clips selected from all these decades of great films, and then you also get sort of this spectacle to go along with it, which is different than World of Color, which is all spectacle. So a very different kind of show. As far as the free things that you listed, the Boardwalk actually is not only Yacht and Beach Club, but also the Boardwalk Resort itself. And yes, that is definitely a great place to walk around and spend some time, as are the beaches at the hotels. I would definitely agree with all of that. Next up, this email is from Toby from Switzerland, who writes, "First, I want to let you know that you're doing an excellent job in providing all the latest Disney and theme park news every week. I first went to a Disney park in 1992 in France, and since then I've visited several times at both Disneyland and Walt Disney World in the U.S., as well as Disneyland Paris, and we just came back from our trip to Paris, and I can only recommend, the new Disney Dreams nighttime show. There's everything on or around Sleeping Beauty Castle, from video projection, laser, water fountains, fireworks, just the best of World of Color, the magic, the memories, and you, Wishes, and Fantasmic in the evening. Fantasyland closes from 8 p.m. because of the show. I guess they launch fireworks from the castle. Presumably, that kind of nighttime spectacular for Orlando when Wishes is going to be replaced someday. Apart from that, and maybe interesting from you, 3 major differences from Paris to the U.S. are Crush's coaster, which is an inside spinning coaster. Finding Nemo has, or rather based on Finding Nemo, 2 continuous arcades left and right from Main Street with access to all the shops, and in Disney Village, that's our downtown Disney, you have Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Keep up the good work with your podcast. Thanks very much, Toby, who also notes that English is not his native language, which is why some of those sentences were a little bit broken up. But the point is, Toby was making that there's some great comparisons to be made between Paris and the parks here in the United States, and also some things that they do much better than we do, particularly that new Disney Dreams nighttime show, which looks phenomenal, and I hope we get a variation of that to replace Wishes, as Toby says. Of course, there have been no announcements as such, though Steve Davison, who is the creator of World of Color, as well as this Disney Dreams show, just recently on his Facebook said he was working on 2 new Disney experiences, but couldn't say any more about that. A lot of people are hoping that it's for out here in Orlando, perhaps a castle show and or perhaps a parade. We'll just have to wait and see, because he was also involved with the great Mickey's Sensational Parade out in California. But anyway, thanks, Toby, for that quick comparison of Paris to the U.S. parks. Next up, a few questions that Tom and Michelle sent in from Chicago, Illinois, who write, we're going down to Walt Disney World from June 11th through June 19th for our honeymoon, and we have a few questions that we were hoping you might have some information on. I know the Fantasyland expansion will still be underway, but do we know if any other sections of it will be opened by this point? Next, do you know if the experiences like the dolphin interaction at the Living Seas book up far in advance? Disney recently announced bringing Starbucks to the parks. Was there any word as to when the first one will be opening in Florida? And lastly, if there was one big experience, expensive or not, in Walt Disney World you would think would be a great fit for a honeymoon, what would you suggest? Tom and Michelle, let me see what I can do about answering your questions here. As far as Fantasyland expansion, no, unfortunately. I don't think anything else will be open by the time you're going to be out here. The next phase of anything is going to be opening in July, and that's going to be more of Storybook Circus. As far as the dolphin interaction at Living Seas booking up far in advance, my recommendation is just to always book anything as far in advance as you possibly can. You never know when things are going to fill up. I don't know if that particular experience will, does fill up that, a long time in advance, but you could always just call, try, get in there. I really don't have an answer for that one, unfortunately. As far as Starbucks, the first one's actually going to be opening in California on June 15th, along with many, many other things on Buena Vista Street, but Disney has not said where or when specifically the locations will be opening in Florida. It very well could be around the same time, but likely not. It's probably going to be later in the year. And as far as one big experience for a honeymoon, I'm all, spa experiences are certainly very nice. And if you're going big for expensive, sort of experiences, those can definitely get up there. But, Victoria and Albert's is certainly an option if you want to dress up and go to a fancy schmancy dinner over at the Grand Floridian. Those are just the things that come to mind immediately as far as a big experience that you could do that would be appropriate for a honeymoon. A few more emails here. I think we're getting into, I think that was it for the holdovers from last week, and now we're going to move into Ed, who writes, there was a movie in the 50s or 60s that had a chase foot scene that happened at Disneyland. Do you happen to know what that movie was called? Ed, I have absolutely no idea, but if anyone out there knows a movie from the 50s or 60s that had a foot chase scene at Disneyland, maybe anyone in the chat room, maybe anyone out there, email me, let me know. I'll be happy to pass that along to Ed. Next email is from Matthew, who writes, big fan of the show, looking forward to it every week, especially having just moved away from Florida. Anyway, just wondering if you think Disney will incorporate a hologram system like recently used at the Dr. Dre concert where they brought Tupac back to life. I was thinking something like this could be used for a fireworks show at night, revealing Walt Disney himself. Matthew, I'm just going to go ahead and have to say no to that one. I don't think Disney would ever bring back Walt Disney in any sort of form, be it an animatronic, hologram, projection. I mean, the closest thing they do, of course, is play clips of Disneyland opening day, audio clips, video clips. It's in the Magic, the Memories, and You, etc. But I don't think they would ever have a good reason to sort of bring Walt Disney back to life. His spirit is certainly in everything that the Walt Disney Company does, and for those who are still attached to the company to see him alive again in some sort of representation, it just wouldn't... I just don't think it would be right. Maybe, I'm sure Disney would handle it respectively if they did it, but I just don't see it happening anytime soon. And just to make a note here, it's not a hologram. Everybody keeps calling it a hologram. It's just a projection. It's a Pepper's Ghost effect almost. Musion is actually the name of it. It's used over at the Disaster attraction at Universal Studios, as well as Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey in the Queue. And it's a very lifelike projection. But it's a magic trick, essentially. It's not there's no such thing yet as a true 3D hologram in this world. Someday, perhaps, but anyway, just a little pet peeve there. Next up, Anna writes in and said, I went to Disney World 2 weeks ago with my family in the hopes of scoring one of the paintbrushes on Tom Sawyer Island. We were at the Magic Kingdom for opening, and my little brother ran to the raft dock ahead of the rest of us, and the rafts typically don't leave until an hour after opening, but a cast member was there for him to talk to. He inquired about the paintbrushes, and the cast member told him that they stopped hiding the paintbrushes a few months ago, but that they're planning on creating new magical moments on Tom Sawyer Island. The cast member also told him that the new magical Moments should roll out within the month of May. Do you know anything about this? Anna, no, that's the first I've ever heard of that. I do know that they, or I did know that they stopped hiding the paintbrushes around the island a few months ago, as you said. Just all of a sudden, that was no longer part of the daily Magic Kingdom routine, but it's good to hear that something else in its place is in the works for Tom Sawyer Island. What that is, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Next, Ben from Atlanta writes in and says, I have what I might fear might maybe a stereotypical dumb question, but would appreciate an authoritative answer on this. Are there any rides at Disney World in which you would actually be in danger of hitting your hands if you raised your arms? Space Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain, or others. The voice says to keep your hands inside the ride vehicle, and some of those beams sure look close. Well, Ben, I think you just answered your own question. Keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the ride vehicle at all times is a very smart idea. Yes, people raise their hands on roller coasters, and Disney's well aware of that. And sure, those beams look very close, especially in Space Mountain. But there's some good headroom there. They realize tall people ride the rides, and then tall people are bound to put their hands up on the rides, and they're not going to have anybody's hands, arms coming into contact with beams overhead from the track. With that said, off to the sides, underneath you, it's generally a good idea just to keep your arms and your hands inside the car. No, I have never heard of anybody having any of their extremities struck while riding a roller coaster by just simply having fun and throwing your hands up in the air. That's just part of a roller coaster experience, and Disney's well aware of that, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that unless you have really, really extraordinarily long arms. But no, I wouldn't worry about it. Couple more emails to go. Next up from Mary, who writes, a longtime listener and even longer Disney fan. I'm 17 years old and been to Walt Disney World over 40 times, but this summer my family is deciding to change things up and go to Disneyland. I personally have always wanted to go to the place where it all started. So my question is, what restaurants would you tell a first-time guest there to go to? My family isn't picky on food, and we just love places with decent food but good atmosphere. Mary, that is the hardest question that you possibly could ask, because Disneyland has so much good food. It's not like the Magic Kingdom out here where it's a lot of quick service and a couple of okay other restaurants. Disneyland Park and also Disney California Adventure is just full of fantastic places that I really, really look forward to eating every time I go. Just off the top of my head, New Orleans Square is my favorite. You've got the Blue Bayou, which is the interior restaurant attached to Pirates of the Caribbean. Great atmosphere, very good food as well. Just across from that, Cafe Orleans. Again, great atmosphere because you've got sort of the outdoor environment of New Orleans Square. You can see bands playing. You can just enjoy the atmosphere. Also, great food. Even the quick service around New Orleans Square is excellent. Chris in the chat room just pointed out Trader Sam's over at Disneyland Hotel. Another great example of fantastic atmosphere, which is a fairly new addition to Disneyland Resort. Certainly worth the trek over to the Disneyland Hotel. It's not necessarily a restaurant, it's more of a bar, but it does have sort of quick finger bites to eat in there, and they are very good. And just around the corner from that is the Tangaroa Terrace, which does serve more food as well. But the list just goes on and on. Over in the Paradise Pier area of Disney California Adventure, I really like the new Boardwalk Pizza and Pasta, and that whole area that the food is served there. The atmosphere is certainly great there. And, I mean, I could literally go land by land throughout the parks there and just pick out everything that is fantastic. I've named some of the favorites there. Go through the hotels, go through the parks. Almost everywhere you'll find great food and great atmosphere. The one exception that comes to mind immediately is Pizza Port over in Tomorrowland. That place, in my experience, has just been awful. The pizza's bad, the breadsticks are bad, the pasta's bad. They've changed it around a few times over the years, and I've maybe had one decent meal there, and the rest have just been horrendous. I would avoid that one. Short of that, eating at Disneyland is very much a pleasurable experience. And that's it, actually, for your listener feedback this week. And that's where we're going to wrap up show 371. Lots of talk about some new and upcoming experiences out here at Walt Disney World, talking about the Fastpass Plus RFID next-gen stuff and getting some insight as to how that has been operating during this test. We'll see how that turns out to be in the future as that moves forward. Of course, Merida from the upcoming film Brave from Disney and Pixar is now meeting guests at the Magic Kingdom along with her three cute little cuddly bear cub friends. And lots of other fun experiences there, archery lessons, coloring, etc. A great little play and greet experience. And, of course, much, much more fun from the movies. The Avengers, $1 billion, 2 weeks. That's just crazy. I don't know, so much to talk about this week. It's too much to summarize all here at the end of the show, other than to say there's much, much more to come. The next few weeks here on the show is going to be a pretty big few weeks. I'm going to be heading out to California in about a week and a half to go to the Transformers ride opening out at Universal Studios Hollywood. After that, Disney's Art of Animation Resort's going to be opening out here. After that, of course, Cars Land, Buena Vista Street, etc. back out in California about a month, actually exactly a month from now, a month and 2 days officially for the public opening, but a big press event June 13th through 15th. And even in the mix of all of that, many, many more exciting things happening. So it's a big time of year. This lead up into summer is always huge. So be sure to not only stay tuned to this podcast, but also follow us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube to stay on top of it all. I do want to thank Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's episode of Inside the Magic. You can find out more about their services by visiting magicaltravel.com. Also, check out themeparkconnection.com if you're interested in Disney collectibles, small, big, expensive, inexpensive, rare, unique. That's the place to go to find it all. And visit us over at lanyardlab.com to see all the different styles and custom lanyard options that we have available. You can request a price quote today to receive a free digital preview of your lanyard design. So, as always, visit us at InsideTheMagic.net between episodes of this show to stay on top of everything. You can see lots of pictures and video and all kinds of good stuff from the Merida meet and greet and so much more. So, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks very much for listening and watching every week. Have a magical week. Goodbye.
Beautiful tomorrow, just a dream away.